Hello and welcome into this week's ARCA Menard Series Rewind show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, we're currently in our hashtag Race to 1K. If you haven't done it already, go down below, hit that subscribe button. It is free to do. The quicker we get to 1,000 subscribers, the quicker YouTube will let us do mobile live streaming, which will vastly improve both the quality and quantity of coverage we're able to give you from the track. So in today's ARCA Rewind, we're looking back at the season finale of the 2020 ARCA Menard Series East season, the Pensacola 200, presented by Inspectra Thermal Solutions. 200 laps was the scheduled distance. We went a tick into overtime. 100 miles around the half-mile Flags Speedway in Pensacola, Florida. Now this race started off relatively boring, if we're being honest. Probably the first 130 laps, there wasn't much happening. One driver grabbed the lead, ran away with it, and nobody was able to touch him for the vast majority of this race. And it looked like this was just going to be a pretty boring race. He was going to run away with this, win the race, and that was going to be that. And we had some decent battles back in the pack up to this point, but nothing really all that exciting. We had a few wrecks to cause a little bit of excitement here and there, but really not a lot going on for those first 130 laps. But then, when we hit that 70 to go mark, things changed, and things changed very quickly. This race went from one of the most boring of the 2020 season in ARCA to one of the best races in those last 70 laps. The action, the drama, the consequences, the races for the win, the races in the middle of the pack, everything ramped up as we got into the latter portions of this race. And it all started when that one driver that got out and led the first 130 laps got passed for the lead for the first time in the race. And after that point, it was like they opened the floodgates and everybody went crazy. And it became such an exciting race. It became a real race at that point. It was like, oh, this guy can be beat. All of a sudden, we have something to race for today. And that's what happened. This race became really, really good in that last quarter or so of the race. So let's take a look at your caution report for the day. 7 caution flags for a total of 27 laps. It really ramped up near the end of the race with the cautions as well. First one came at lap 16. That was for debris. Nothing too exciting there. Lap 57, the 14 of Connor O'Kresick spun in turn 2 to bring out the first caution for an incident. Nothing else happening in the first stint of the race as the first break came at lap 76. Then we went green all the way through the mid portion of the race, from that first break almost to the second break, when Chase Cabry spun in turn 4 on lap 144, and that caution would be deemed as the second break of the day. No need to go back racing for 3 or 4 laps just to throw another break. So they went ahead and they made that break number 2 for the day, and we went racing for about 55 laps after that to the end of the race. But this is really the point where things started to get really exciting. Things started to change very quickly because we'd had our first lead change of the race just before that point. Remember how I mentioned it was around lap 130? Well, this was lap 144. So this is where things really started to ramp up in this race. Lap 158, Mason Diaz spun in turn 2. Another Mason Diaz incident just near the end of the race at lap 193 as Mason Diaz spun on the front stretch off the nose of Sam Mayer as Mayer had gone to lap. Mason Diaz got into the back of him, spun him into the inside wall off of turn 4. That brought out the caution on lap 193, and that in itself was about to set up a really fun 5-lap dash to the finish. But oh no, we weren't done with cautions yet. The final caution came on lap 199 as the leaders were going through 3 and 4, coming to the white flag. They didn't get to it as Chase Cabry spun in turn 3 to set up overtime. And boy, was it an overtime. We'll get into that more when we get to the results. Lap leaders on the day, only 2 drivers spending time out front in this race. Grant Enfinger led the majority of this race, 175 laps total for the driver of the 77 car for Chad Bryant Racing today, making his return to the ARCA Menard Series, now a Truck Series regular. He flat dominated this race. Sam Mayer, though, led 31 laps out front in this race. Now, we mentioned that first lead change came at lap 130. Obviously, Grant Enfinger led more laps than that, so he obviously got back to the lead at a different point after that. So the question here is, who won this race? Did Grant Enfinger pull off the dominating victory in this race in his triumphant return to the ARCA Menard Series, or did Sam Mayer best Grant Enfinger in this race and make it 5 for 6 this season in the ARCA Menard Series East to cap off a phenomenal championship season in the ARCA Menard Series East? Which one would come out on top in Pensacola? It would be Sam Mayer. It's just been so dominant this season in the ARCA Menard Series. Does it again. He was able to best the Truck Series regular in Grant Enfinger, who led the vast majority of this race, just shy of 3/4 of this race. Sam Mayer put a fantastic showing on today, but it wasn't without a challenge. Even on that overtime restart, Ty Gibbs right there on his bumper. Ty Gibbs put 2 separate bump and runs on Sam Mayer in overtime, and Sam Mayer still held him off. He did it down into turn 1 as they took the green flag on the overtime restart, and he did it again into turn 1 after the white flag. Mayer held his line, got a little loose. Gibbs was able to get inside of him both times, but Mayer was just able to put the power down on the outside, get the lead back both times, and Sam Mayer came home with the victory. In fact, after that last bump and run, Corey Heim was even able to sneak inside Ty Gibbs, and Heim was able to beat and bang his way into the second position at the end of this race. Those 3 cars there in the top 3, Sam Mayer, Corey Heim, Ty Gibbs, seemed to be very equal at the end of this race. Either one of them, Ty Gibbs or Corey Heim, I think, given a clean racetrack and no opposition from behind, could have given Sam Mayer a run at the end of this race. The problem was they got to battling each other, and Sam Mayer got away. Not to take away anything from Sam Mayer, because he was extremely fast in this race. Probably could have held both of them off, but they could have given him a really good run for his money as well. Sam Mayer was the one that came home with this victory. Shout out to Corey Heim, though. Corey Heim is a spectacular talent. Corey Heim will get his wins in the ARCA Menard Series very soon, I think. I think very shortly into the 2021 season, we're going to see a lot of wins for Corey Heim, depending on where he ends up and how many races he has and that kind of thing. I hope he has a full-time ride in 2021, because I think he can be a legitimate championship contender, whether that be in the East, the West, the main ARCA Series, doesn't matter. Once he gets a win under his belt, there's going to be more coming, and he will be a championship contender. Corey Heim's got a lot of talent, and hopefully team owners have seen that and are willing to give him a full-time shot in 2021, because he, if anybody deserves it, I think it's Corey Heim, and I really want to see that for him coming up next season. Ty Gibbs ended up in the 3rd position in this race. Taylor Gray was all over the place in this race, as high as 2nd at one point in the race. Really, probably for the first half of the race, was the 2nd fastest car to Grant Enfinger for a long time early in this race. But then at one point got stuck on the outside and got freight trained, literally freight trained, and fell from 3rd to 10th at one point in this race in the middle portion, and had to fight his way back from being deep in the pack, and got back to a respectable 4th place finish at the end of this race. Kudos to Taylor Gray. He's another one I think we're going to see a lot of good things out of going forward. Grant Enfinger fell all the way to the 5th position at the end of this race. Definitely not as dominant at the end of the race as he was in the beginning. Rest of your top 10, Jesse Love in the 15 today for Venturini Motorsports. Good run for him. Daniel Dye in the 43 for Ben Kennedy Racing. Posted a 7th place finish. Great run for him. Justin Carroll, another great run posted from him, 8th place. That's somebody I think I would really like to see in a top tier ride. Justin Carroll has done a lot for a car that I don't think is really comparable to a lot of these cars he's running against. I don't think he's got the speed to really run with them, but he always seems to find a way in these races that he's in to somehow come away with a top 10, very good finish for a car you wouldn't expect that to be done in. So I'd really like to see what Justin Carroll can do in good equipment. Hopefully there's some opportunities opening up for him next year, because I would really like to see that. I'm very curious what Justin Carroll could do, because I see a lot of potential there, and I'd like to see that come to fruition, and I'd like to see him really prove what he can do. Nick Sanchez in 9th, and Parker Retzlaff rounded out the top 10. Final page 11th through 19th. Big field today for the East Series. We've not gotten great car counts in East or West this year, and even in some main ARCA races, but I think 19 cars is a very respectable field, especially especially for the East Series. And they put on a good show today. Unfortunately, got a few names down here that definitely don't want to be on this side of the results, namely Derek Griffith in the 13th position. Derek Griffith kind of hung around most of the day, wasn't really contending for the lead a lot of the day, really stood there about 4th to 8th most of the day. But there late in the race, he really put on a charge. He put an incredible amount of pressure on his teammate Infinger for the lead late in this race, but unfortunately got run into from behind, looped it around, got a little bit of damage on the car, and that would be the end of the competitive day for Derek Griffith, which was unfortunate because I think this was going to be another day where Derek Griffith really showed how much talent he truly has, and unfortunately it was taken away from him before he could really demonstrate that late in this race. This was going to be another kind of eye-opening race like New Smyrna was earlier in this season for folks to go, oh, Derek Griffith really knows what he's doing. This is a really talented guy. And he got taken out before he was really able to show that. Really unfortunate, and hopefully he's another one. I hope he gets more chances in the future because I think he's got a lot of potential and a lot of talent that we really haven't even scratched the surface of yet. Chase Cabry, after his incidents, came home in 14th. He was as high as 3rd at one point in this race. Really good day for Chase Cabry. Unfortunately, was not able to end it off. And then Mason Diaz, after his incidents, came home in the 16th position. So that's your results from the Pensacola 200. Working on a Sam Mayer interview to talk about this race and the season as a whole now that he has won the championship. Working on the logistics of that as to when exactly we can do that. So just make sure you're subscribed and you got your notifications turned on. That way you know exactly when we put that up for you. So let's look at your final point standings for the season for the ARCA Menards Series East. Of course, we know Sam Mayer won this championship, and after winning this race, extended that lead even more over Ty Gibbs to finish the season. 32 points, the final tally for Sam Mayer over Ty Gibbs in the 2020 ARCA Menards Series East. Nick Sanchez ended the season a strong 3rd, 73 points off the lead. Parker Retzlaff ended up in 4th. Mason Diaz fell down to 5th after his incidents on the day. Justin Carroll, 6th place finish for a team that, like I said, I don't think the cars got as much speed as the people he's running around, and still came home with a 6th place finish in points, even beating a Rev Racing car that also ran every race this season in Chase Cabry. Now granted, Chase Cabry had a lot of bad luck this season. He had a lot of days that looked like today where he got in multiple incidents that weren't of his doing. This was just a bad luck season all around for Chase Cabry, one I'm sure he wants to forget. Honestly, I feel like he could have been right up there with his teammate Nick Sanchez, if not better, had he been able to finish every race this season. But unfortunately, just was not a good season for Chase Cabry. Only 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s for the whole season. Not the season he was looking for. Hopefully he's able to come back next year and bounce back from that. Taylor Gray, after only making 5 starts, finished 8th in points. Max McLaughlin with 4 starts on the season in 9th. And then Brett Holmes with 3 East Series starts was able to get a top 10 finish on the season, beating out Corey Heim by 1 point for a top 10 position. Corey Heim 1 point behind Brett Holmes this season. They had the same amount of starts in the East Series, and unfortunately Brett Holmes outpointed Corey Heim by 1 point and kept Heim out of that top 10 points position. Still some great runs for Corey Heim this season all around in the ARCA Menards Series. But that's your point standings to wrap up the ARCA Menards Series East season for 2020. The main ARCA Menards Series season wraps up this coming weekend at Kansas Speedway Friday night. Of course we'll have a watch party for that. You think we'd miss the championship race for the main ARCA Menards Series, especially as close as that championship battle is? No, we're going to have a watch party for that. Of course, you got to come by and hang out for that. If you're not hanging out in those watch parties, you need to be. We have a great time just chatting it up about random things and watching the race together. Of course, we'll have a rewind show for that. ARCA Menards Series West still has 3 races remaining. They wrap up their season the first weekend of November. The same weekend the top 3 series are in Phoenix. They'll also be in Phoenix. So we still got a few ARCA West races left, and we've got main ARCA Menards Series race left this season. So we still got a lot of ARCA racing left for you this season, so definitely stick around for all of that. If you're not subscribed already, like I said before, go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from R&N. While you're down there, hit that big thumbs up button for me if you like the video. It's much appreciated when you do. And also, as always, want to thank our Patreon supporter, Regional Manager William Holmes. Thank you, as always, for your support. It is greatly appreciated. If you'd like to be a patron of RNN, the link is down below in the description. Patreon.com/RacingNewsNow. Not required by any means, but it is greatly appreciated when you want to support RNN in that way. But that's going to about do it today for this ARCA Menards Series Rewind show. So as always, I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.